we're told that, innovation, as Stan mentioned at the beginning, we're behind in innovation. And I think today what we're going to discover is there are many of us out there, many of you out there who are doing things. And in today's world, we often hear that innovation is not an option anymore. It's almost innovate or die. And it's a little scary, but the more we understand what it's all about, I think we are full steam ahead. I attended a business conference not too long ago, and innovation was on everybody's lips, except that each speaker was using the term innovation slightly differently. And some were using the term in terms of creativity, others in terms of novelty or positive change. And then there were some that were including in the category of innovation just simple improvements. So I said, maybe these terms are synonymous, but if there were differences, I needed to understand what they were, because for the past few years I've been delivering a workshop called Leadership and Creativity. And up until now, I thought it was sufficient to coach leaders on how to be more creative, as well as how to facilitate creativity in their employees. But lately, I've grown quite uncomfortable with the underlying assumption of my workshop, which is that if you generate ideas, that was enough to, prompt change. And I grew especially uncomfortable when I heard that only 4% of the ideas that our organizations generate ever see the light of day. One writer observed that leaders were chasing creativity, but what they really needed to pursue was innovation. So that's when I asked, what the heck is innovation anyway? So I hit the books. That's kind of my nature. I hit the books and I met some wonderful writers and thinkers and researchers, even novelists and poets. They enlightened me a little bit closer to how we're using the term innovation today. What they agreed upon is that innovation included positive change, that innovations are designed to solve a vexing problem of some sort, and the gain involved had to be useful, sustainable, and not something fleeting or a money-losing proposition. So was creativity different from innovation? Although both are inventive processes with methodologies and practices and disciplines of their own, essentially they are differentiated by the nature of their results. Creativity is the work required to generate an idea. The result is intangible, where innovation is the work required to make the idea a reality, and that is tangible. Both were necessary for effective change. It's not an either-or. But I was starting to feel duly chastened for spending so much time on creativity alone, especially when I read a quote by the editor of the Sunday London Times, where he said, "Innovation is not simply invention, it is inventiveness put to work." Here's the ouch part. Invention, creativity, without innovation is a pastime. Yikes. So in my small way, and I don't mean this to sound like hubris, but in my small way, had I been contributing to the lack of innovation in our organizations by focusing on creativity? So insecurity and self-doubt kind of crept in, and I asked myself, should I abandon the creativity aspect of my presentations entirely, and should I just focus on what it meant to implement creative ideas? It was obvious it was time for a seminar rethink, but I thought, You know, innovation still starts with a creative idea. And even when we're implementing creative ideas, we can still implement them creatively. So I thought, rather than abandon the creative portion of my workshop entirely, maybe there was evidence out there that certain types of ideas better lend themselves to innovation. Then I came across this wonderful book, and I really suggest you read it too. It's by Stephen Johnson, called Where Do Creative Ideas Come From? The Natural History of Innovation. And in it, he introduced me to the idea of the adjacent possible. He borrowed that idea from an analytical biologist by the name of Stuart Kauffman. So what is the adjacent possible? The adjacent possible is a place where innovative ideas lurk. They're not exactly right in the front of our vision. You know, they're to the periphery, the margins, and sometimes they exist just below the surface of our awareness, and sometimes even at a non-conscious level. The trick is to find ways to access that. He writes that when you're looking for the best ideas, you can find them adjacent to existing ideas. 2 steps away and you're too far, 1 step away and you're nearly there. He writes, at any moment, the world is capable of extraordinary change, but only certain things can happen. In other words, ideas that better lend themselves to innovations are not necessarily based on new knowledge. According to recent evidence, fewer than 20% of today's innovations come from new knowledge. Most innovations come from the recombination of existing knowledge. Then that new knowledge forms something new and useful and innovative. The more I read, the more similarities started to emerge in the literature. This comes from Denning and Dunham's book, The Innovator's Way. They state that innovative ideas could be found, listen to the language, in the margins of our lives, the edges, because not in our direct line of sight they escape notice. They seem unimportant or out of place. But when we pay attention to the problems that bother us or gnaw at us or in some way vex us, although they may seem obscure at first, as we slowly start to put words around them, we begin to see the parts that make up that problem. Then our task is to recombine the parts in new ways, and that's when we begin to innovate. So I asked, was the adjacent possible just this neat little conceptual, theoretical idea that folks like me love? Or was it something that was occurring in real life? So I decided to check it out with a few entrepreneurs. Not a formal study, but just a way for me to get a better handle on whether this idea had any legs. I never met 2 of the women that I interviewed, but I did have an acquaintance with the 3rd. But I had no clue on all 3 whether or not they sourced their ideas from the adjacent possible. So I'd like you to meet first my first entrepreneur, Anita Skinner, who happens to be here today. Anita is the one on the right in the white. Our paths had crossed several years ago when Anita was in publishing and I was writing, and we met recently at a Christmas party, and she brought me up to date on a new venture that she was involved in. She was moving to the fashion world. So I said, Anita, do you know anything about fashion? She said, no. It was immaterial. Her idea started when she started to play golf. And she discovered that at that time, she's not anymore, but at that time she was a plus-sized woman. And she found that there were no clothes that were comfortable, functional, and fashionable for a fuller-sized woman. So she felt that plus-size women deserved quality in athletic apparel tailored to shape and fit their bodies. They deserved them the flattering clothes just as much as the, quote, skinny bitches she met in the clubhouse. She researched her idea. She met with fabric suppliers and designers, and she became a member of the Toronto Fashion Incubator, and she did her due diligence on profitability, and she called her line, "Not So Skinny Bitch, Get Out There and Play." And today her line is offered in 32 different golf courses across Canada and growing. Now, everything Anita needed, she had already been invented. All she did was look to the adjacent possible. Now, she didn't know that's where she was looking, but essentially that's what she was doing. She recombined what she found and launched an innovative line of women's clothes. I'd like you now to meet Nadia Veranos. Nadia owns a store dedicated to gluten-free food. She told me that she has a gluten allergy, and she knew what it was all about shopping all over the peninsula, looking for this product there and this product there and so on. And so she thought, wouldn't it be nice to have this all under one roof? So she got busy. She started emailing companies, told them what her idea was. They gave her connections to other distributors and suppliers, and she created a business plan and was off and running. Her business line grew along with her customer base. Customers would bring in a product that they got elsewhere. She would see if she could source it in Canada and then bring it in if she could. So she not only increased her product line, but she increased customer loyalty. Nadia's experience reminded me of something that Stephen Johnson said in his book. He wrote, "The strange and beautiful truth about the adjacent possible is that its boundaries grow as you explore those boundaries. Each new combination ushers new combinations into the adjacent possible." In other words, it's just like opening a door to a room, entering, getting to know what's there, and then another door opens. And then another door opens. The strange and beautiful truth about the adjacent possible. And now I'd like you to meet Lee Harlan. Lee owns a Truly Organic Foods. It's an online specialty food business based in St. Catharines that specializes in raw and vegan products. Her motto is heal with food and nutrition. What she wanted to do was offer in an accessible way those products for customers who wanted to get rid of the processed foods in their diets, the foods with potentially larvicides, pesticides, artificial flavors, high fructose, corn syrup, and so on. Her idea started with a personal experience as well. She survived a very traumatic accident that left her physically challenged. She lost her job, couldn't work, and as a result of that, fell into severe depression. She didn't want to take antidepressants, but she didn't want to suffer the consequences of weight gain and acne. She said that would have made her feel twice as bad. So she explored natural cures for depression and found a couple of mentors and educators who suggested that she go on this regimen for 30 days. She added rest and meditation. And at the end of 30 days, she told me it was like I turned back the clock 20 years. She was young enough as it is. She said, I had more energy, my depression was lifted, it was just like my body was healing on a cellular level from the inside out. That was 3 years ago. Today, her business is just bursting. She's moving, as we speak, into a larger warehouse to accommodate her products. She didn't invent anything new. All she did was recombine the information already existing in the adjacent possible and created an innovation in online shopping. I became convinced after speaking to these three entrepreneurs that a wonderful source for finding innovative ideas that better lend themselves to becoming realized could be found in the adjacent possible. What I could do for leaders, I could help them access that. So what the heck is innovation anyway? Well, at the end, and I'm still involved in my journey, but I believe that most innovation is about the recombination of the adjacent possibilities we can conceive and implement for generating a better life. As the novelist V.S. Naipaul once said, after all, we can only become the ideas we have of our own possibilities. Well, I'm scheduled to give my seminar to a group of MBA students next month. And I've decided not to abandon the creativity portion of my workshop, but I will spend more time on how to generate innovative ideas, ideas that better lend themselves to becoming realized, ideas from the adjacent possible. Then I'll spend time on the ultimate innovation, deciding what leaders can do about the ideas that they generate. Thank you.